Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Strategic Tourism Transport Business Continuity Scheme Explainer webinar. Today, we will talk you through the scheme and the eligibility criteria and the application process. I will now hand you over to my colleague, Adrian O'Donoghue, who will talk you through the eligibility criteria and the scheme itself.
Good morning. So I'm going to take you through the overall scheme, the overview of the scheme and the eligibility criteria, and just talk you through the main elements to give you a sense of what we're targeting with this fund. So this scheme aims to address the needs of a number of strategic tourism transport sectors. And in particular, I suppose to recognise the role in the recovery of tourism. To date, we have funded a number of tourism sectors. Before Christmas, we worked on a coach tourism fund. And subsequently, in our phase one in 2021 this year, in our business continuity first fund, we also funded, we opened the scheme to cruise hire operators, boat tour operators, hop-on, hop-off buses and bus tours. So we have dealt with a number of sectors already, and the aim of this is to look at the other relevant sectors. So for us, what's really important is to consider what the main aspects of tourism transport and what that is. And one of the things that we want to be clear on is that this is not a scheme about point to point. It's about a scheme that enables an itinerary to be executed, and it's not a replacement for any public transport alternative. So when we go through that, it'll be clearer as we work through. It's also really important for us that the regionality aspect of this scheme that enables people to access our tourism offering is enabled, and really does enable us to come back when we do look to recover from COVID. So there are two main categories of tourism transport businesses that we have identified for this scheme. The first one is a tourism vehicle rental area. So it relates to specialist operators around camper van, motorbike rental and car hire. The second one relates to limousine and chauffeur services and escorted private tour providers. So a little bit more detail on each one of these cohorts. So related to the tourism vehicle rental operators, this is for operators who provide passenger vehicles made available for multi-day hire to tourists who self-drive, particularly the overseas market. So this includes vehicles such as cars, people carriers, motorbikes, motorhomes, and in particular for an overnight experience. So it allows them to get in and experience the Irish tourism offering. And we know this is a really important sector for us. What is ineligible is car sharing services, car clubs, commercial rentals, corporate contracts. So anything, for example, such as car rental that would be, car service replacement or anything like that, we're not looking to fund. Secondly, then the tourism chauffeur and limousine services and escorted private tour operators. So there's a little bit in this. So really what this is about is luxury vehicle hire exclusively in conjunction with driver services for use predominantly by overseas visitors. So this is also for operators who partner with tourism event organizers, conference venue managers, inbound tour agents, accommodation providers, etc. So this is about tours that are you can access tours, you are accompanied on that tour, and that that can include the vehicles that can be used. Obviously range there from cars to buses, etc. So we want to also consider some of the buses that we haven't included previously in the coach transport, which is smaller buses such as those like the Mercedes Sprinters, and also older buses which are older than 7 years. You must have relevant license. Licenses must be held for the business or the vehicle. So we'll be looking at that, working with the National Transport Authority and the Department of Tourism. So ineligible activities in this area relate to taxis, hackneys and non-tourism activities. So while you may have a limousine license, if it's for weddings or other non-tourism activities, that will not be included when we come to consider the grant to be awarded to you. So the qualifying criteria, there are 6 of these. I've already covered the first one, which relates to the business type. The second one relates then to the downturn in your eligible tourism turnover. So we do expect the majority of you to be experiencing this. Given COVID, it's a requirement of our scheme. So we will look for you to provide to us your average monthly turnover for 2019, and we're going to be comparing that to your Q1 2021 average monthly turnover. Once you're down 75%, you satisfy this criteria. The second one then relates to your overall tourism activity in 2019. So you must have generated €50,000 in eligible tourism turnover in activities in the Republic of Ireland. The Republic of Ireland is important because we do understand that some of you maybe have some work into Northern Ireland, or indeed outside of the country. So it's only for the activity that can be attributed to the Republic of Ireland, because that's the remit of Fáilte Ireland. The fourth one then relates to the Fáilte Ireland Safety Charter, and we're looking for you to have either completed that or commit to completing and adhering to it. The fifth one relates then that we expect you to resume trading in 2021, or when it is safe to do so, obviously in line with government guidance. And you must have been an existing operator prior to January 2020. So for tourism chauffeur, limousine services and escorted private tours, as outlined earlier, there can be a business mix there in terms of what is offered. So we want to ensure the tourism element when we review your files or your submission. So to that extent, we're looking for you to declare 10% of your eligible tourism turnover for 2019. So and provide evidence around that. So what that means is you will be required to submit extra documentation into your application to show it's just up to 10%, and that will actually equate to the maximum grant amount. And that can be given to us in terms of giving us data for tourism purposes, can relate to the proof of bank transfer or invoicing from the Irish Tour Operators Association, the Golf Tour Operator Association, or the Professional Conference Organisers Association. It can relate to the invoices to a Fáilte Ireland registered accommodation provider or to a tourism experience provider, such as a visitor attraction or activity operator. So have a little bit think about how you would satisfy that. Again, looking for 10% of your overall tourism eligible turnover for 2019, and provide that information to us. And again, if you're not able to satisfy that, it will make you ineligible. We can work with you to enable that. So importantly, the grant calculation. So how much as an applicant can you receive? So the total amount here, the grant payment is calculated in the following way. So it will be at 10% of your 2019 tourism, your eligible tourism turnover. So what is your total turnover? And you will be funded 10%. So the minimum that you can receive is €5,000. Obviously, you will need to have a minimum turnover of 50,000, and the total and the maximum award is up to €800,000. So it's important to consider the interplay with other funding schemes that we have operated to date, such as the 2021 Business Continuity Scheme, the Coach Tourism Scheme, and the Inbound Agents Scheme. So across those schemes, this cap cannot be exceeded. So more than 10% of your turnover, or up to €800,000. So in some instances, if you are a coach tourism provider and you've already applied and received funding from us, and let's say that you have €500,000 in turnover Sorry, let's say that you receive €50,000 from us, but actually your total turnover when you consider all elements. So you may also have chauffeur services, you may also have smaller buses that may not have been included in your previous application. So that might bring up your total turnover to 700,000, for example. That would bring you to 70,000, and the gap there would be 20,000. So just bear that in mind when you're submitting into us. We will consider that. I'll come back to that on the next slide, just for a couple of other examples. We are also taking due consideration of the Department of Enterprises, Trade and Employment's SBAT scheme, Small Business Assistance Scheme for COVID, where they will provide up to €4,000 for small enterprises. So if you have applied for that, we will remove that €4,000 from your application. It's to overcome any kind of double funding element. Again, I'll come back to that in the next slide. So all other funding received, such as that related to CRSS, are not relevant to the scheme. So that's important to consider. So the three examples, so simply put, if you have 200,000 in eligible tourism turnover, you will receive €20,000 from us. If you are, let's say, a vehicle rental company and you've turnover of 30 million, that 10% is 3 million, but again, the cap is €800,000. So you will receive €800,000. You won't receive the 3 million because that's the cap on the scheme. And then the last example, which is, so for example, if you're an escorted private tour operator, you've turnover of €1 million in 2019, that would equate to a 10% turnover. If you've been funded already to date in one of our other business continuity schemes of up, and in this example, we're saying 30,000. If you have applied for the DETI scheme, Department of Enterprise Trade Employment scheme, through the local authorities, that's a further €4,000. So in order for us to meet the 10% turnover, you will be awarded an additional 66,000. So 34,000 that you've already accounted for, plus an extra 66,000. So multiple businesses and locations. So applications must be submitted per legal entity. So regardless, if you have a number of sites, it's related to the business entity. So you may have one in Kerry or in Limerick, but it is around, what is the entity itself. This scheme is operated under the EU Temporary State Aid Framework for COVID-19. And under that, 100% funding will be provided. So there's no match fund, there's no element of that. It's a direct grant from Fáilte Ireland. So my final slide then just relates to the application process. So we will open this tomorrow. It will close 12 noon on May 13th. We will be publishing the guidelines tomorrow. You will be able to access the application form via the trade portal. Any queries can go to the customer support email or the number for your application process. And it's really important for you to just take your time when you look at the process. Make sure that you have a look at the guidelines and the requirements and what you need to get, what extra documentation you need to require before you start the process, just to see, just to enable that. Give it careful consideration before starting to make sure that you are eligible, and consider, what funding that you may have received from us already. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Linda now, who's going to take you through a little bit more detail on the application process. Over to you, Linda.
Thanks, Adrian. Hello, everybody. My name is Linda Riley, and I am going to talk you through the application form and the application process. So just to say that I will introduce the trade portal for those of you that don't have it. Some of you may be familiar with it. We'll go through just a live demonstration of the form, and then we'll recap at the end. So I'm going to take myself off camera now and share my screen. So the Forms are available on the trade portal. If you don't have a trade portal account, please go ahead and set one up. It's the trade portal of Fáilte Ireland, or tradeportal.fáilteireland.ie, and it is available on a link from our website as well. Once you log in, you click on funding and create a new application, and you should see your forms available there. Now, there are two forms, one for the vehicle rental sector and one for the private hire sector. So please make sure you've got the right form, and our customer support team will be able to assist you with that if you do not. So once you click on the form that you're looking for, I'm going to go through the chauffeur hire and the escorted private tours form today. I won't go through both, but both are there. There will also be a how-to guide available on the website for how to apply, just to walk you through the entirety of the form and the questions that we're asking. So once you click through that and click into next, it brings you into the scheme. So both pages or both forms are broadly the same. There's a little bit of difference, and I'll highlight that. But there's 7 pages. So you can clearly see at the top of each page where you are and what page you're supposed to be on, or how far through the form that you are. So the first page discusses scheme eligibility. You just need to take a look through that and make sure, as Adrian mentioned there, it's your business must operate out of the Republic of Ireland, that you have unfortunately suffered a 70% downturn. Your business must have been established for trading prior to January 2021. Minimum eligible tourism turnover of 50,000. That you intend to reopen, and that you were not an undertaking in difficulty. The other thing that we're going to need on this side of it for this sector is that you have a valid license type in 2019. So you just move through the form then and select, just answer the questions. So this first question, what do you do, or what type of business do you have? And then you're just ticking to confirm that you meet the criteria. Again, as Adrian said, please do check the guidelines, refer to the guidelines, make sure that you're eligible. Any questions, please contact us ahead of time, or as you're moving through the form, just to make sure that you have the right information or that you are indeed eligible. Page 2 discusses the general information and documentation required. I would strongly advise that you, as you work through this page, that you look at it and that you make sure that you have all the information before you start filling out the rest of the form. Just make your life a little bit easier. As I said, there are support notes for the application, and they're available here on a hyperlink. They're also on the website, but you can click here through to them. And again, the customer support email, should you have any questions. So the information and documentation required broadly for both groups: tax reference number, CRO number if you have it, your 2019 statements, 2020 management accounts, along with the management accounts for the period of January to March 2021, so that's quarter 1. For this particular sector, we're looking for the portion of revenue attributed to eligible turnover in 2019. Adrian mentioned that, and I'll touch on it again in a few minutes. A copy of your 2019 tax return, or your most recent tax return if you don't have 2019, that's fine. Applicants whose eligible turnover is more than $1 million must have an independent letter, a copy of your bank statement header, and confirmation that you are not an undertaking in difficulty if this applies to you. We also look to get the information on your licensing, and we will provide an Excel spreadsheet template for you to fill out and upload. And again, it's just make sure that you understand the documentation that's required. And once you're through, just click next. So the start of this page just explains the sort of save function, save and exit, and the different methods you have of moving through the form. I would suggest that you save at the end of every page, or as you're moving through. If you're going to step away, if the phone rings, if the delivery arrives at the door, whatever happens, just save it and come back to it, and it'll be in the same place that you left it. This page, page 3, is very straightforward for everybody. Who you are, whether or not you have your part of a group structure, your business description, who's dealing with the application, phone number, email address, business address, Again, this must be in the Republic of Ireland. Company validation, registration number, and your tax reference number. So all of these need to be filled in. If you don't have the information, for example, if you're a sole trader, please put non-applicable in here. And you can save and exit or just move through to next. Page 4 then is on state aid information. This is really important to make sure that we are not breaching any state aid caps or anything like that. We also need to make sure that you are not an undertaking in difficulty and you weren't facing any bankruptcy or receivership or anything like that at the start of 2020. So the explanation at the top of this page just talks about what the business sizes and definitions are, so you can identify where you fall, and the state aid declarations that we're looking for. I have highlighted the few here that I think are most relevant, but there's a long list of 12 that's available on the how to apply on the support notes. So that will just show you all of the different schemes that you may have availed of over the last 12 months or so. So again, it's move through here and answer the questions, whether or not you're an undertaking in difficulty, if you need to upload a file, if you received any supports, yes or no, and what you have received. We do not need EWSS, TWSS, CRSS, any of those, they don't need to be declared here. Page 5 of 7 is the information on the bank details. So if you're awarded some grant funding from us, where are we paying the money? So name of the legal entity, name of the bank account, and that's the name on the bank account, not the name of the bank that you're with. Your BIC code, your IBAN, and then a bank statement header needs to be uploaded here, which verifies this detail. Prior to any grant being paid or any grant being awarded to you, you will get a phone call to verify these details from us again. And whoever makes that call to you will quote this reference number, this application ID. So it's from this page that the two forms differ a little bit. Not too different. There's a little bit more information required on the private hire, the chauffeur and the private tours than there is on the car rental in terms of additional uploads. The start of this page, the blue box, talks again about what's required here. As before, I suggest that you read this, check you have the information, and have it all to hand before you start, just to make your own life a little bit easier. This is where the Excel document is going to be. The Excel template will be available here. You'll be able to download it and you'll be able to upload it again in question 6.11. So what does this page need? What are we looking for? We're looking for your financial statements for 2019. If you don't operate on a calendar year, that's absolutely fine. You'll just need to upload the 2 files to cover the whole of 2019, please. We'll be looking for your management accounts, and those accounts need for 2020 and then January, February and March. Your most recent tax return. If your eligible turnover is in excess of €1 million, we will need an independent letter to verify that. Where your eligible turnover needs to be declared, we will also need to see the invoices to the value of 10%. And again, Adrian mentioned that. Any funding from previous schemes needs to be called out here, along with the licensing information, which is on that Excel spreadsheet. So 6.1 is the upload of the financial statements. I've already uploaded that there, just financial statements 2019. I didn't do it here, so I can show you. It's providing the management accounts for 2020 and for Q1 of March 2021. So just go to the Add Files button, choose Files, and if you go to Management Accounts 20 and 21, if you have them saved, you'll be able to pop them in here, X out if you make a mistake, and upload files. So that should be straightforward, and they are there, and they're there for you to download or remove if you have accidentally uploaded the incorrect information. Question 6.3 asks for your total 2019 calendar year turnover, all of it. And 6.4 asks for your eligible tourism turnover. So this is the question where we're asking you to break out that revenue that is not related to turnover, to tourism, excuse me. There's also a tab in the Excel spreadsheet just to further elaborate on this, just to make life, again, a little bit easier to explain where your revenue streams are and where the turnover is coming from. Question 6.5 asks for the average monthly eligible turnover of the applicant business in 2019. So your question 6.4, that total divided by 12. And 6.6 is asking for the eligible tourism turnover average across the 3 months of Q1 of 2021. For most people, that's probably going to be close enough to zero. Excuse me. We also ask you to declare if you've applied for the scheme from the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment. It's the SBAS scheme, the Small Business Assistance Scheme for COVID. We will be considering that if you have applied. And we ask you then to explain if you have, or identify if you've received any funding from our previous schemes. We ask for a copy of your most recent tax return. Again, where your eligible turnover is greater than 1 million, we're looking for your accountant's letter. And then to verify all licenses. So this is the Excel sheet. It's very, very straightforward. Applicant reference number, your contact name, your the list, your license type, what license type you have, your number, the date valid, if it was valid in 2019, if you're going to reapply, and then your vehicle registration information. Your turnover information is on the same Excel sheet. So again, this just needs to be populated across. And then once you're done with that and you're happy with it, you upload the file. And that's it there, uploaded. So the final part of this page 6, which is the second to last page, is the declaration of your turnover, or providing us verification of the value of your eligible turnover. We're looking for validation of 10%. As Adrian mentioned, we're looking for it from a number of forms. It may be from a member of one of our tour operator groups or our association of professional conference organisers, or a recognised Tourism Ireland, Fáilte Ireland provider. If one invoice meets the verification level, that's fine. However, if you need multiple invoices, they may be uploaded here. So as before, it's adding the files, invoice 1, 2, and 3. You can just see that I have random files picked up in there. And then they are saved. And once you're happy with that, save. And I would, again, very much encourage you to save as you're going along. And you can, if you realize you've uploaded the wrong information, you can move back and change that. So back to finally the final page. So I hope you can see now that this is reasonably straightforward. Page 7 is the last page, it's the declarations. All of these will need to be ticked. We do need to make sure that you understand what you're agreeing to. So please, please read this carefully. It's about the terms and conditions of the scheme, that you understand the guidelines, that you, as far as you're concerned, you've provided us with the most accurate information to the best of your ability, that you're tax compliant, and they move the whole way through, that you will undertake to take the safety charter. And as you move through that and you're happy that you've signed them off and you're happy, submit. And that will then acknowledge that you've submitted. And from that, then you will receive an email to let you know that we've accepted you've received your application. So I think that's it of the live demo. So if I can come back now to the screen. So just to recap some of the application requirements, we will need your company registration number if you have one. We'll need your tax reference number, your 2019 financial statements, your management accounts for 2020 and to the end of March of 2021, a copy of your most recent tax return, and a picture of your bank header statement. That's for everybody. Some people will need an accountant's letter if that's applicable. Some people will need to declare state aid if it's been received. Some people will need to provide us, or some applicants will need to provide us with licensing and vehicle information. Some applicants will need to provide us with a breakdown of turnover. And some will also need to provide us with validation of the eligible turnover from 2019. Move on. Just a recap on some of the state aid. State aid will need to be declared to us. I do have a long list of 12 in the how to apply document on our website. But for the most part, these are the ones that are most likely to apply here. The Irish Restart Grant, which was administered through the local authorities for Enterprise Ireland. The Adaptation Fund for Fáilte Ireland. The Coach Tourism Scheme. The Ireland-based Inbound Scheme. The Tourism Business Continuity Scheme for 2021, all Fáilte Ireland. And the Small Business Scheme for COVID from the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment. Please do declare and let us know if you've been in receipt of any of these, or in the case of the SBAS, if you've applied. So just to recap, please make sure you've signed up through the Fáilte Ireland, or to the Fáilte Ireland Trade Portal, as that is where your application form is going to be. If you have Trade Portal access but cannot see the form, or if you have any questions during the process, please email customer support. We would urge you to have the details to hand before starting, just for yourselves to make life easier. If you have any questions on your eligibility or any questions on the guidelines, please do contact us ahead of time. Please make sure you're eligible for the scheme before you apply. Save the application as you're going along, or you could lose something in the middle of page 6, which is where all your information's been uploaded. And finally, you will receive a receipt of submission via email. If you don't receive that, give it about half an hour. If you don't receive that, please let us know. Please get in touch with us and we'll make sure we'll check it out for you. So that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. So I'll invite Adrian to join us now for the live Q&A. Great, thank you both. There's loads of questions in, so we'll just get going on them if that's okay. So the first question, probably for you, Linda, what can we include for validation? What invoicing are Fáilte Ireland looking for?
Basically, we're looking to receive some sort of validation that you were bringing that you were involved in tourism and involved in bringing groups or private tours around the country. So what we're looking for is maybe an invoice from one of our inbound agents, one of our DMCs or our destination management companies or our PCOs, or perhaps an invoice from a hotel, from one of the Fáilte Ireland registered hotels, or a registered attraction, or something like that, just so that we can identify that you are actually involved in tourism and that you're, just that you can validate that portion of income. We are only looking for 10% though, so if one invoice suffices for 10% of your eligible tourism turnover, that's fine. If it takes 3 or 4 invoices, that's also fine.
Right, thank you. And we just have a follow-up question on that. So if the majority of their work was done on sub-hire work for other coach operators, but all in the tourism sphere, do these invoices suffice?
You'll need to submit those and let us take a look at them. If there's any difficulty with any of that or any questions that we have, we may have to come back to the individual applicant and ask those questions. We may need further validation.
Okay, and then this is a follow-up maybe for you, Adrian, just on the invoicing as well, but on types of work. So work carried out doing cruise ship day tours, airport transfers, would they be included in the invoicing?
So probably 2 different answers, Caroline. The first one, if you're coming off a cruise, so say if you're coming off a cruise and you've been taken to up to the Guinness Storehouse and on to Cliffs of Moher for the day and back, so that would be considered included. But if you were just bringing people into the centre of Dublin or the centre of Cork City or somewhere else, that wouldn't be included, because that's in essence a transport function as opposed to a tourism function. And equally, in terms of looking at transfers from an airport, the same would apply. So if if it was a limousine, you have a contract and you're picked up at the airport and you stay with that person on that tour, and you're brought down the country, you're brought around, and it's more than a half a day, that would be considered. But if it is bringing people into their accommodation, that is not what the funding is focused on.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is on the Fáilte Ireland coach tourism funding. So people who previously couldn't apply for the coach tourism fund based on their type of vehicle were deemed ineligible. Can they apply for this one?
Yeah, they can. And so we will be asking for the whole of business turnover, and to understand what's involved. And you may also have chauffeur business, you may also have chauffeur potentially as part of your business. So it is those additional build-ins that we will take account of. So yes, you can apply. And then also the other eliminating factor on the previous scheme was the age of the buses. So the age of the buses and or vehicles is not restricted in this instance.
Perfect, thank you. And then another question is this open to taxi drivers as well as chauffeurs, as some may do both? Adrian, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so again, it depends on the license and the vehicle that you're putting forward. So if you happen to do both, it is on the and Linda's the licensing expert here. We're learning, but if it's on taxi activity, we are not. It's not going to be included in eligible turnover. But if it's chauffeur, it is eligible turnover. I don't know if you want to add anything there, Linda.
Yeah, we will ask you to provide your license type to us. So if your license type is a taxi or a hackney license, unfortunately, this isn't the scheme for you. You're just not eligible for this scheme. But if your license is a limousine license, then yes, you may absolutely apply. However, as you've already mentioned, Adrian, we're not including point to point as eligible tourism revenue. So that does need to be considered with the application.
Perfect, thank you. A question on if you receive funding here, will we be allowed to apply for a lump sum to spend on various multiple small costs like equipment, membership costs, etc.? So basically, how will they receive payment?
So I might take this one, Caroline. The aim of the scheme, and when the business continuity was launched by the minister, was to look at sustainability of businesses, and in particular a focus on fixed costs. So what we're trying to do is contribute to the fixed costs of the lack of tourism activity. So in one sense of you being closed to, or there being a lack of activity on the tourism side. So you will receive a lump sum payment on the basis of us establishing 10% of your eligible tourism turnover, and we're looking for you to use that to offset some of the cost of fixed costs. So we won't be looking for we won't be asking you to send in invoices and for us to reimburse you. It's a one-off payment. And again, we're looking for you to focus on the fixed costs, and that's where we want you to make the payments or to cover off. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Linda, I know you touched on the Excel sheet in your presentation, but one of the questions is, what exactly will I be asked, and will it be difficult?
I don't think so. I don't think it'll be difficult. It should be straightforward. We're going to ask you to list your licensing and your vehicle registrations. I understand that in some cases people could have a number of licenses and a number of vehicles. So that just makes it a little bit cumbersome to answer that through the form. So we thought taking that into an Excel spreadsheet where it's very easy just to run down the list of licenses to put in to the corresponding vehicle information would just be easier than trying to manage this through the form, given that some people could have a high number, relatively speaking. The second part of the Excel spreadsheet is around the eligible turnover, and it's just to indicate to us what your eligible tourism turnover is. And we appreciate that your accounts may not show that to us because people wouldn't necessarily have accounted in this way before. So it's an effort to try and just establish what's eligible tourism turnover against what other turnover your business is receiving or generating is probably a better term.
Brilliant, thank you. And could you clarify on resumption of trade, please? If we have turnover in 2021, what exactly does resumption of trade mean? Sorry, Adrian, do you want to take that up?
Yeah, Caroline, it's an interesting question. If obviously, if you have an element of your business that is functioning and ongoing, that's great. It's written, I suppose, with the given the lack of overseas visitors that we have at the moment, a lot of tours and activities obviously not happening. So in our heads, that's no trade happening, but you may well obviously be doing other things. So resumption trade as such is implied in that way, but really it is about you being available for visitors and tourists when they do come back in and to resume that trade. So my sense would be that the question is around an element of the ongoing work is still there, or that you're still open and doing different elements. That's fine. It's us making sure that you are committing to be there, subject to obviously the government regulations and adhering to when we can open, and be there for that cohort to come in and be there to support them and to look after the visitors when they're here, when they come back.
Brilliant, thank you. And then did you want to take this one? If grants are made available, how long will it take for the funds to come through?
So there's a few things that we need to do upon application. So once you submit your application, all of the information that's there needs to be verified. We need to make sure that the information has been uploaded in the correct way, that the right information has been asked for. And if there's any questions, we need to go back and forth to the applicant. Once all that is done, and once that we're satisfied the application is complete, we'll then do our very best to get that out within about 4 weeks if we can. Now, there's going to be a large volume we anticipate, so you'll have to bear with us a little bit. But as both myself and Adrian have said, the clearer you can be in your application form, the more that you have the right information uploaded, that the correct forms are in the correct place. And it's very easy to upload the same form twice. I've done it when just checking the form. It's very easy to do that, to upload a tax return twice instead of uploading your accounts. That just slows it down for us, because our evaluator team then needs to reach back out to the applicant, check the details and have it resubmitted again. So what I would say is, if everybody can really take a little bit of care with the application form and try and remove that need for us to go back and forth, it'll ultimately move an awful lot quicker.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Maybe, and just to add to that, Caroline, we maybe you've said this, Linda, apologies if you have, but it's our intent to we won't be waiting until the end of the process. So once you're in, we go with our review. It's not all in and then we wait. So once you're in, you begin that process that Linda has outlined. So it's kind of a pay-as-you-go model. So it may be different to other schemes, but that's how this one is operating. And obviously it is, we would envisage that we are able to turn these around once they're in, and they're in good shape, and that's really important for us, and clarity, of your answers. Just think about that. Think about, can we follow your business? Can we understand it? If there's any complexities in there, explain it to us so that then we can understand, because we may need to just come back to you. And I suppose just be reassured as well that if you do submit, we're not going to, we're going to review and get clarity so that we're clear on our determination of the level of your funding. You can be rest assured that we're going to come back to you and ask and get clarity, but also that we're not going to dismiss your application if something is, obviously missing. You forgot it and you uploaded it, as Linda says, in error. That won't make you invalid as an applicant. So we will come back to you and say, look, can you give that back into us? Let's make your application fully valid. So just to verify that as well.
Brilliant, thank you. So the next question is two-part. Are day tour operators eligible? And then quite a few questions on, can you just reconfirm what a day tour operator is as well, please?
Okay, I'll have a first cut at this, Linda, and then you can come in. As such, I suppose going back to the aim of the scheme, we certainly eligible turnover will include day tours. So day tours is about having a plan, going to different sites. It can be
having an itinerary.
Yeah, an itinerary, exactly. Yeah. It can be up to half a day. We're looking for more than kind of half a day is indicative of what we would expect. So, you know, it's nothing kind of complex really here. It's just about, you know, providing that offering to the tourist really, or to the visitor. So yeah, day tours are included. And the second part, Caroline, again, sorry.
It was just kind of redefining what the day tour operator was. A few questions on that.
Okay. So hopefully that's it. I don't know if you want to add to that, Linda.
No, I think that covers it off, Adrian. I suppose it's just to an earlier question. If the visitor is coming in on a cruise ship and then wants to go out to Kilkenny for the day, that's, you know, and you're with them and you're showing them around and you're waiting for them and you're bringing them back. That's the sort of thing that we're thinking about here.
Perfect, thank you. And a few questions on the 50k turnover threshold. Do you just want to take that, Adrian?
Yeah, so that's one of our eligibility criteria. So we're looking for businesses to have accumulated 50,000 in eligible tourism turnover in 2019 as a minimum threshold. That's been a level that we used in the previous phase 1 scheme. It's also a level that the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment are using in their small business scheme. So we do understand that there are some businesses that will be earning less than that, but at the moment that is where our policy approach is. Again, the extent, you know, of the value of the grant obviously comes down as it gets lower, and the extent of the impact becomes lower as the turnover decreases. So that is where our level is at for this scheme, and has been consistent with that and other government schemes as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Can you confirm that the €800,000 cap applies to a group of companies? So the maximum of all companies grouped together are limited to the 800,000, please.
Yes, that's correct. That's how we would, if it is a group structure and the company is sitting underneath that group, it is €800,000 to the group.
Perfect, thank you. And what kind of license do you need to have, Linda? Do you want to take that one?
We're looking for the Limousine license, the small SPSV, the small public service vehicle. I should have written that down. The large one covers the larger vehicles, the large public service, the larger vehicles and the sprinters, and the RTOL license as well. So we will be working with the NTA on licensing. Your license will need to be valid, or you will have needed to have had a valid license in 2019. We absolutely appreciate that may have lapsed. Absolutely appreciate that. But we will need to have seen and be able to confirm that the license was valid in 2019. And that is one of the declarations in the application form, that you allow us to share that information with the NTA to check that. And one of the declarations is to make sure that we're asking you that you'll be reapplying for that license again when you're in a position to do so. So they're the three types of licenses that we're looking for.
Great, thank you. And we have two questions here. Sorry.
Caroline, just to add to that, Linda, do you just want to speak about the revenue element as well, the consent that we will be seeking?
Yeah, so the consent covers, the consent that we're looking for in the application form covers two pieces really. It's the sharing of the information, but that sharing of the information, or the sharing of data that we're asking you to consent to, is to share it amongst potentially amongst government departments such as the revenue commissioners, or an agency as the NTA for the licensing, or the Department of Transport for the licensing. So we may need to validate or talk to the revenue commissioners about the tax return or the returns that you're making. And so again, it's just to validate that information if we need to. So they're the two. The one consent button covers the two, the data share that we're looking for there.
Perfect, thank you. And sorry, there's two questions on car hire. So the first one is, for car hire, what type of backup or invoice is needed? But I don't think there is any, is that correct?
That's actually not needed for that sector. We do have a question for that sector on fleet size and the breakdown of the fleet, as of March 2020. but we're not looking for validation if the invoice is there.
Brilliant, thank you. And if a car is hired,
Sorry.
Just to add to that example, so if you tell us that you have vans in your fleet, we will expect, and we might ask for some extra information, but we would expect you to be telling us, well, our 2019 turnover is the following, and because our activity in relation to like van hire, we wouldn't include that in the eligible tourism turnover. So we'd expect a difference between obviously the 2019 total and the tourism eligible turnover. So we'll be watching for that as we work through, and we may have some additional follow-ups if required related to that. But otherwise, we won't be asking that question.
Yeah, exactly. For the car hire cohort, particularly, less so the camper vans, but for that sector, we'd be looking to make sure that any commercial fleet, so the vans or garage contracts or courtesy car contracts or anything like that, that's excluded for the purposes of this grant.
Brilliant, thank you. And then just to follow up on the car hire, if the car is hired to an Irish resident for leisure purposes, is that classified as eligible turnover?
Yes, it would be. So that would be domestic tourism. So absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and Adrian, this might be one for you. If the company you are working for is USA based or European based that you are working for directly, and you have invoiced and received payment from them directly, is that allowed to be included?
So it's a good question. It depends on the legal entity that you're applying as. So if you're coming to us as an Irish revenue, revenue paying in Ireland, you're eligible, and the activity, if the activity is paid to from a UK company, that's okay, as long as the activity is occurring in Ireland. So once you're an Irish company, the activity is occurring in Ireland, and you're applying to us as that, and not as part of that other part of a UK or an American structure, then it's fine. So just if you want to ask us a few more questions, that we're happy to deal with you individually, but that would be the broad kind of answer to that question. Irish resident, Irish business, and then the activity happening in Ireland.
Thank you, and that's quite similar to the next question. A company that works exclusively for a UK tour operator, so they wouldn't have invoicing from the likes of the I2A, etc. But they can still apply, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Once it might be to demonstrate in the invoice for what that activity is for. So if it's a UK invoice, well, that's for this tour of Galway or whatever. That is okay.
Yeah, just to say there, really what we're looking for here is to demonstrate that the tourism activity took place in the Republic of Ireland, and that's really what we need. Where we listed some of the places you may be invoiced from and those invoice fees, that was kind of to guide you. But if you're able to demonstrate to us clearly that the activity happened and took place in the Republic of Ireland, that the tour took place here, that whatever the activity is that you're demonstrating, we just need to be able to ensure that it was related to Irish tourism.
Perfect, thank you. And we have another question from a coach tour regarding the coach tourism grant. So they have one coach in their fleet who received a grant under the coach business grant. Do they include that in their application for this scheme?
Yeah, so if I could take this one, Caroline. Yes, so what we want to do is we want to understand the whole of your business. So how many vehicles you have, and therefore that helps us with establishing the total turnover. So you do include it all.
Perfect, thank you. And can a letter from an inbound tour operator stating value of work carried out for them in 2019 be acceptable, or is it invoices only?
Seems, yeah, we can take a look at it, but on first response, and it sounds fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If we have any questions on that letter when we see it, we may have to go back to the applicant and look for further information. But as Adrian says, on first thought, I see no difficulty with that.
Brilliant, thank you. Is there a minimum stay for the clients to be considered tourists?
No, it's more it's more what the service has been provided first. So you know, if again, a good one might be that the cruise company coming in and you're gone away for half a day or so and you're looking after them. That's kind of what we'd be looking for. So it's kind of a minimum of half a day if we went that direction. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Is the grant only payable on the difference of eligible tourism income as opposed to all income?
Eligible, yeah, it has to be eligible. Yeah. So
Great,
again, maybe just to add to that, again, it's us distinguishing between transport provision and tourism transport provision, and that's important for us. And hence, you'll see two different questions in the application form, as Linda has outlined.
Yeah, great, thank you. And we're just coming near the 11 o'clock, so the last few questions coming up now. For 2021 January to March revenues, do we include deposits received for tours later in the year as turnover, or do we exclude them?
My view would be that
right.
Sorry. Yeah. I think you would exclude them because we're keen on the activity in that period rather than you know, it's something into the future. So that would be my interpretation. Linda, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. What we're really trying to establish we're really looking for applicants to demonstrate is that reduction in turnover in those periods of time for the activity. So yeah, I would agree.
Perfect, and I think this will be our last question. If the tourist books direct through the website, is this eligible as the invoice will be directly to the client and not an approved tourist partner?
No, I don't think so. There's very little way of validating that and where they've come from. I think we're going to need to have something a little bit more robust than that in terms of the validation piece. Is my first gut on that. We looked at that for something else, and I just don't think we're going to be able to establish that that's a tourism function.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, those kind of difficult ones, if you can help us with the linkage, and you can link a secondary piece to it, which lines that up and makes sense. We won't eliminate it, but on the first basis, but if there's a way to verify. So if from your perspective, when you look at it and you think, oh, well, I'm not sure, I was going to try it and put it in, we're going to have to come back with a question, and that slows down the process for you. So try and be, you know, as solid as you can on what you put into us.
Yeah, if somebody's booking you that way, they're presumably booking for more than point to point, which is what we're trying to move away from here. So there's presumably some other activity associated with that booking. So presumably there's a hotel stay, or there's attraction entrance fees, or there's some level of an itinerary there. So I think we need to see a little bit more than just the booking for that could potentially just be an airport transfer, and that's it.
Okay, we've just hit 11 o'clock, so Linda and Adrian, thank you so much. There were lots of questions we didn't get round to. We will endeavour to answer them in our FAQ. Again, the scheme is launching tomorrow at 12 o'clock on fáilteireland.ie. In the meantime, if you feel you're eligible after the webinar today, please sign up for the Tray portal, and the guidelines and full information will be live on fáilteireland.ie tomorrow. Thank you.